Hi there. Welcome to our part two of our second webinar in our webinar series for the Mass E. This webinar, we're going to walk through the application process and demystify any questions you may have. So welcome. Um, Today is June 29th, and I'd like you to meet our student services team. I am Janine Bernard. I'm the Associate Director of Student Services, and we have Mars Rivas, our Senior Admissions Officer, and Maritzi Perez, our Student Affairs and Academic Advisor, here to help you through the process. So, some important dates to keep in mind is the application term that is open right now is spring 2027. There are two deadlines, a priority deadline, which is this Wednesday in 2 days, and our final deadline, which is July 24th. Instruction begins January 2027. It's usually the day after Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which is when instruction begins. And you can go ahead and apply through the grad.berkeley.edu admissions URL. The admit term is spring 2027, and please select the program Master of Advanced Study in Engineering, aka Mass E. So let's go through our admissions requirements. So you will need to make sure that you select the department and select a concentration. Include your academic history, which includes your unofficial transcripts, grade point average. If your grade point average is not on the 4.0 scale, please make sure to attach a conversion. You can attach a document that shows what the conversion is from your GPA rubric to the 4.0 scale. And that would make it much easier for our reviewers as well to kind of gauge that against the other applications we receive. You will also need to include two essays, the statement of purpose and the personal history statement. And if you like, we will offer a third webinar on July 6th that goes through these two essays. You will also need two letters of recommendation and your resume/CV, which is a great way to kind of synthesize your career and your education, and making it again easier for the reviewers to get through each application. Um, Again, we are accepting applications for spring 2027 until July 24th. And so in terms of applying, you will need to create a UC Berkeley graduate application. Go to gradapp.berkeley.edu/apply/. Double check the admit term and program. So it should be 2026, 2027, but select the spring 2027 term. Fall 26 is closed. Make sure to select the Mass E. And very important, you can only apply to one program per cycle. So if you had applied to another program in the fall, unfortunately, you are not eligible to apply again. Please reach out to our office, which will share the email later if you have any questions. And then what does an asterisk mean? It means it is required for you to complete and you can't move forward or submit until these have been completed. So again, which program? This is for admit term spring 2027, and this is for the Master of Science, the Master of Advanced Study in Engineering, Mass E, July 1st priority, and July 24th final. Here's what the application looks like. So you would select your primary study emphasis and and then you can put your secondary study emphasis. This relates to our concentration. So you're not committed to these just yet, but we want to know what your interests are. And then once you get some units and courses completed, then you will be able to declare the final concentration that you want to select. And then make sure to select personal information, like if you'll be sponsored by any organization, either a GI Bill, employer sponsorship, full or partial, government sponsorship, or if you will be self-funded. Um, with your academic history, this is important because we need to review this and when we are evaluating applications. So please include all the schools where you have received college credit. This includes universities at which you have studied abroad at, or community colleges that you have, taken classes in lieu of or in addition to. Make sure you submit your unofficial transcripts for work. Uh, Unofficial transcripts, we need those for review purposes, and they must include your name, your university name, the courses you took, titles, and then dates when you took them, and then the grades. And then, if you have graduated, please make sure that this also includes a degree or degree conferral information. If you're still enrolled, obviously you won't have that until you graduate. But if you do not have this, your application will be paused until this is submitted. And so quick tip, look at your transcripts. Are other schools listed as places you have received transfer credit from? If you do, then you will need to list those schools and submit their unofficial transcript too. So I think this happens, if you transfer from a community college into a four-year university, your first 2 years or so will say transfer from. So we will need those transcripts as well. In terms of international transcripts, please upload a scanned copy of your transcript, degree certificate, and or translations for each institution after high school. And this is also important because it should have your confirmation, degree confirmation, etc. If you have graduated and your transcript does not show when your degree was conferred, please include a scan of your diploma degree certificate. So if your transcript does not show conferral date, but you have a degree certificate, please go ahead and scan that. And then make sure to include a grading scale and ideally include a conversion. But the grading scale will also be helpful. So it's typically on the back of your official transcript. If your academic records are in a language other than English or Spanish, you must submit translations prepared by certified translators from your university, or the American Translators Association or the Ministry of Education. Degree names and grades should be transcribed, not converted in these translations into English words or the US grades of A through F. Then upload the original language and English translations if applicable. But again, this is for languages outside of English and Spanish. Quick note, we do not require an official transcript at the time of application. So you can submit an unofficial transcript, but official transcripts will be required from admitted students who accept admission. And then this will appear on your Cal Central, which is the student portal, and you'll get a task with next steps on how to get this task removed from your dashboard. In terms of GPAs, this is what the application looks like. So please calculate your GPA as a value between 0 and 4. And if it's not based on a 4.0 scale, it says leave these blank unless your program requires you to convert. Please convert them. It is much easier for our reviewers. So please convert them, and you can include advanced GPA, which is courses after second year, which in the United States is typically 2 years. The first 2 years are kind of breath courses and in general courses that students take. And then years 3 and 4 are usually more dedicated to major and your subject matter courses. So that is the advanced GPA. There's a GPA also for all courses in your major field of study. So just those classes for your major. And then if your intended field of study was not your major for an undergrad degree, please calculate GPA for all courses listed on your transcripts that are related to the field of study for which you're applying. So if you were a economics major, but you had a minor in mechanical engineering, and um, that is your intended field of study, then calculate those mechanical engineering classes. And yes, once again, please upload a calculations worksheet for your advanced undergrad GPA. Or if you attended an institution outside of the United States, please upload a calculation worksheet for that undergrad cumulative GPA, unless it's already clearly stated on your transcript. And then you can reach out to us for any questions. And then we have test scores. So this is really important. Your test scores will be automatically um, merged with your application only when your name is exactly the same, and, so if you include your middle name on one, you should include in your application, you should do so in your test scores. Or if there is an accent on your name, please make sure that there's an accent on your name for test scores and application. You must also make sure that your date of birth matches. I mean, it should in general. And then your email is the same. So email, name, and date of birth. This is important because you want your scores to be automatically matched. If I write my name as Janine Bernard on my application, but on my test scores, I include my middle name, Janine Carol Bernard, it will not automatically match, and somebody will manually need to merge these, which can be done, but again, it might take longer. And so it's just easier for you to keep everything, the name exactly the same and the email exactly the same, as well as date of birth, which shouldn't change. Um, yes, so double check name, date of birth, and email used, and then match exam and application information. So that's the first bit on test scores. Then in terms of the requirement, the TOEFL or IELTS is a campus requirement. We cannot waive it. And this is evidence of English language proficiency, which is required of applicants with basic degrees from countries in which the official language is not English. If you have a question, we get questions from students who graduated from India, and they say, well, all of my coursework was in English. Unfortunately, we do require TOEFL from the country of India. So if you have any questions like that, please email gradadm at berkeley.edu, and they will let you know you will need this TOEFL. And then so be sure to use to submit the scores using the code 4833. For admissions purposes, your most recent score must be at least 90 for the internet-based test. And if you decide to take IELTS, no school code is required, but the overall band score must be 7 on a 9-point scale. If you do not pass, or if you do not make these minimums, then your TOEFL will not be valid. And exemptions. So we talked a little bit about exemptions earlier, about what countries, some countries, even though they're taught in English, the coursework is in English, we still require TOEFL. So other exemptions: have a basic degree from a recognized institution in a country where the official language is English. So for example, Canada, obviously, but except French speaking, I believe Quebec, we do require TOEFL scores from them. Or sometimes, the UK is fine, but not France. Um, Another exemption: have completed a basic or advanced degree at an institution in the United States or abroad where the language of instruction is English, and the institution is accredited by one of the United States regional accrediting agencies. So if you know that you went to a school that meets this regional accrediting agency criteria, reach out to grad ADM as well. And the final exemption is allowed for anybody who completed at least 1 year of full-time academic coursework with a grade of B or better and at a regionally accredited institution within the United States. So if I received my degree in France, but then I received a master's in public health in a US university, then I am exempt as well. And let's go into the essays. So please note that essay guidelines differ slightly from the guidelines provided on UC Berkeley's general graduate application, but these meet the needs that we are looking for in our application. So the personal history statement should not duplicate the statement of purpose. So that's just starting off with that. So these are two separate essays, which there will be overlap in, but they are meant for different things. So your statement of purpose, about 1,000 words, should describe your career goals and how this program will meet your professional aspirations. If you're entering the field, tell us about your engineering interests and the skills you wish to acquire during your program of study. Please also describe how you hope or expect to contribute to improving engineering in your future professional endeavors. And then your personal history statement, about 1,000 words as well, should describe who you are, your family, the experience that make you a unique individual, and your connection and motivation for working in engineering. This essay should leave the admissions committee with a better understanding of who you are as a person. So the way I see statement of purpose is kind of like this subject matter, these are my goals, this is how this program is going to get there, and then help me get there. And then personal history statement is, I discovered engineering when I crossed, the so and so bridge when I was 8 or something like that. So it's a little bit more about who you are, and then the statement of purpose is a little about more what you want to do in the field. And again, further differentiation, statement of purpose, articulate your interests, your background experiences, and passion in engineering, and how it relates to your future goals. Highlight skills, but also gaps in knowledge that you want to expand. You're coming to school or coming back to school for something. What do you hope to learn within our program? How will this affect your ability to accomplish your career aspirations? Make the argument for why now, why this program, why Mass E, and then why this specific area of focus. And again, that this could change over time, but at the moment you selected your emphasis interest based on X. And then don't just repeat your resume. Make sure, we're getting good information from you. Avoid AI. It is very easy to spot when somebody uses AI to craft these essays. And then again, maximum word count 1,000. You can go a little bit over, but please try to be concise and be the best. Use 1,000 words as best you can. But not like 1,500. You could do 1,010. And then in terms of the personal history statement, you may want to include relevant information on the following: how you have overcome any barriers in accessing higher education, and then provide context for any gaps or inconsistencies in grades and test scores. Maybe you had to take on an extra job, or maybe you were sick or caring for somebody who was sick, or many things happen. Please provide that context, and make it easy for the reviewer to understand what happened. Or how have you come to understand the barriers faced by others? Say your access to education was relatively easy, but how have you come to understand barriers faced by others? Any academic service to advance equitable access to higher education for women, racial minorities, and individuals from other groups that have been historically underrepresented in higher education. Any of your research that's focused on underserved populations or issues relating to inequality, any leadership you've had among such groups. Allow yourself to reflect and express on key experiences that have prepared or have motivated you to pursue grad school in the fields of engineering. Highlight your passion, maturity, focus, and strong motivation, and all of this in a maximum word count of 1,000 words. And then the personal history statement should not duplicate the statement of purpose. Again, there can be overlaps, and of course, you are one person, and so there will be the same feel in both, but again, each are for a different purpose. Tips for both essays. Be conscious that the review team is rating many essays. So again, you can go a little bit over 1,000, but not by much. Be concise and careful with your language in order to make your essays as focused and readable as possible. Remember to always tell stories that are unique to you. And then add specific details that talk about what you're passionate about. And this will really make your essay stand out. Make sure to proofread, and it's important to demonstrate strong and clear writing skills. Again, avoid the use of AI to create this content. Now, let's move on to letters of recommendation. 2 letters are required. And one quick tip, double check that you have their correct email information. This might seem silly, but a typo can really cause havoc. If your recommender is having trouble, try switching browser or check that they are uploading a PDF file. So it has to be a PDF file. And I had one example where somebody they were having trouble submitting it and they sent it to me, but what ended up happening is the PDF file was encrypted, so it couldn't be uploaded and I couldn't read it either. So if there's any issues, please try first working with your recommender. So in terms of the letters, at least one should focus on your academic potential if possible. So if you have any kind of relationship with a professor, please, reach out to them. But if you don't, you can choose a colleague or a mentor or a supervisor, somebody like that who can speak on different sides of your, potential, of your leadership potential, of your engineering potential, um, uh, you know, anything that you want them to include in their letter to us. So your recommender will get an email notice when you click the send to recommender button in the application. It will email them a link to a page where they answer a few short questions and then they upload a PDF of their letter to the application. You can submit the application before your letters are submitted, and then the other part is true as well. They can submit their letters even before you submit. Letters of recommendation are due on the same day of your application deadline. We may give 1 or 2 days as a grace period, but once the deadline passes, we really need to start reviewing. And in order for your application to be reviewed fully, you must have your recommendation letters included. Otherwise, we cannot move forward with your review. And then we recommend waiving your right to view recommendation as a best practice. Otherwise, the process takes longer, and I'm not even quite sure what that process is, but we recommend waiving your right to view the letter as a best practice. Some other recommendation tips, ask somebody you believe knows you well and can speak highly of you, that has worked with you, that has witnessed, how you are with, a team individually, how you run meetings, how you work independently and again in a team. Um, Somebody that has academically or professionally evaluated you, and somebody that has experience writing letters for other students and or aided with their entry into professional graduate school. So a great mentor who maybe has written letters like this in the past would be ideal. Um, yeah. So, but you can always kind of work through the process. Of course, you can't write the letter yourself, but you can work through the process together, um, by providing deadlines and get a clear answer and follow up with reminders and thank you emails. So share materials such as your resume, your CV, the essays that you've written for the application, unofficial transcripts, so that you provide your recommender with more information. Ask your recommender to use letterhead and their professional email. What I've seen other folks do as well is maybe share some projects that they're particularly proud of. And again, be, you can't ask them to exactly write what you want in that letter, but these are good things that you can bring as examples to incorporate into their letter, um, so that you provide your application is reviewed holistically and we can see, all of these things that we need to do our evaluation. Tip: ask your recommender if they have time to write a recommendation and if they are able to write you a strong recommendation. So yeah, so again, somebody who knows you well, can speak highly of you, maybe has evaluated you academically or professionally, and ask them if, first off, can they do it, right? That's the biggest part. If they can, then you can move forward and go through these tips. If not, you would have to find somebody else. And again, give them a copy of your resume and or statement of purpose so that they can anchor their letter in some of this material, and then you make a cohesive argument for why this program and why now. We do have a scholarship application. So we do offer limited awards, partial scholarships based on criteria, including academic merit, financial need, overcoming personal, academic, or professional barriers, and experience with diversity. Please communicate this in the economic background section and the personal history statement, as well as in your personal information. The scholarship application is shared before the start of each term, after folks have been admitted, and before the start of each term. New students can, everybody, all students, new and continuing, can apply in the fall for a scholarship, but moving after fall, only new students in each term, spring or summer, are eligible for these scholarships. So fall includes everybody, and then new and continuing, and then spring and summer scholarship are open only to new students those terms. In terms of the application fee, this is what it looks like on the graduate application. You're not submitted, you haven't submitted until you pay the application payment by the deadline to be considered for review. So they do sometimes give a 1 or 2 day grace period. So please pay it either at the time of submission or shortly thereafter. Credit cards and debit cards are accepted. Um, this is a non-refundable waiver. Sorry, this is a non-refundable payment. And if you qualify for a waiver by the Office of Graduate Admissions, please make sure to follow up on the required documents, as our department is not responsible for waivers granted by the Graduate Division. We may offer waivers in the future, so just please stay tuned for any communications from our office moving forward. A little bit more about the application fee waiver. The grad division offers application waivers for both students who demonstrate financial need and students who have participated in certain programs. So once you complete the biographical information and personal background sections of the application, the fee waiver will automatically appear in the payment fee waiver section if you are eligible. Only U.S. citizens or current permanent residents are eligible for an application fee waiver. And then one caveat is undocumented students or students that may be classified as AB 540 or non-AB 540 may be considered for an application fee waiver if they demonstrate financial need. And then you can visit the prospective undocumented graduate students for more information. And you can also go to the grad.berkeley.edu website for more information on application process and fee waiver. And then what happens after you submit? So you can still, the primary point where you should check your status and can check it is the application portal. So that's where you'll see what's missing, what has been received. So fee waivers, have they been approved or not approved? Your test scores, have they come in? Letters of recommendation as well. And this is where if you know that you submitted your test scores, but they're not showing, then there must be a mismatch with either your name, your date of birth, or your email. So you would need to get in contact with us or with graduate admissions to get that manually merged. Um, Admissions committee will review the applications and recommend the top applicants out of the completed applications. No application edits are permitted after submission. So, oh, I forgot to submit. Unfortunately, if we did that, then we'd never close admission. So please be mindful of the deadlines. And finally, the Office of Graduate Division does a final review of each application and then they provide the final approval. So that is to say that we as a department review and recommend for admission and then the graduate division makes sure that all of the materials are um, that they need are there. And if anything is missing, we will follow up like with transcripts that are missing, conferral dates or anything like that. They are the ones who do the final vetting, and they are the ones that provide the official admission. So an application checklist. So boom, statement of purpose, personal history statement, 1,000 words max, current CV or resume, 2 letters of recommendation, including at least one, if possible, from a former professor or somebody who can speak to your academic potential, transcripts, which may be unofficial for all college level, but it must include your coursework. Official transcripts will be required if you are admitted and if you accept admission. We also need degree certification and translated copies if necessary, if applicable. Test scores, send the TOEFL IELTS scores to code 4833. And then application fee documentation for fee waiver, if applicable, make sure to go through the appropriate instructions in the application. And if you have any questions that are not answered or that come up as you watch this video, please feel free to go to our website, mass-e.engineering.berkeley.edu, or email us at mass-e-support@berkeley.edu. Reach out to our team with questions or feedback after today's presentation, and we look forward to connecting with you. So thank you so much, and we hope to see you in our application pool.